appreciate you folks having this meeting, and it's a topic that is kind of near and dear to my heart. I've been in local government for 25 years, and I think anyone who wants to take control of their own destiny, much just like John talked about, this is the kind of meetings you need to kick those things off. You know, I always had a lot of admiration for John previously, and even more so tonight. You know, he can convince his wife to come up over the mountain to listen to him again. I asked my wife if she wanted to come on, and I won't tell you what she said. She's not in the audience. But, you know, I think that John probably wrapped it up, and the essence of the message is it's about choice. And when you incorporate and you become a municipality, you do have choice. And I think that's the challenge that probably unincorporated areas have, is the choices are more limited. And the ability to define your destiny and what you want to do, and whatever model you choose. I mean, John just talked about a model, you know, in terms of where they contract almost everything exclusively out. Where I currently work, for example, I work for a radio system that provides services to one of John's municipalities, and Judas for emergency service purposes. And we have a similar model. We have about a $5.5 million budget. We have 4 employees. And so most of our service is contracted out. It's a model that works particularly well for us. Some people have criticized the service in the past, not so much anymore. But you know, that model has worked extremely well. I'm a councillor in Ladysmith, where we've been incorporated for, I think, it's about 105 years, maybe 107. So a long time, a lot of history. About $6–7 million budget, 60 employees, right? So different evolution, different style of service, and so you have those choices. And I think we have around 166 municipalities these days, give or take. And I think you could find from one, probably John's extreme, to the City of Victoria, where you've got 1,000 employees and a variety of services, and most of their services are provided in-house. So I think at the end of the day, it's up to you, as we just talked about, is you setting a vision, what you want your community to look like, what kind of services you want to deliver, what you can fiscally afford. And I'll maybe just talk about that in a few minutes as well, in terms of the kind of the fiscal models, because that's usually the big issue in terms of incorporation. People always worry about the costs associated. I think, in general, if you're just talking about hard numbers, you're looking at probably some kind of modest increase in tax to maybe a noticeable increase in tax. And one of the underlying principles is not so much in terms of what service delivered model that you take, but because you guys are looking at a municipality that would be probably over 7,000, and the threshold with the current federal provincial contract for police services with the RCMP, the threshold of 5,000 is when you start paying. So you have to pay 70% of the cost of whatever it is to police your area. So right now, as an electoral area, you're paying, I would say, significantly less than that 70%. So you can't get away. You need police officers, you need a safe community. Choosing the RCMP model, you can go your own police force. Central Saanich does, Hope Bay, Victoria, Saanich, some of the other municipalities on the Lower Mainland, but you pay 100% of the cost. There's no subsidy from the feds, no subsidy from the province, so that's a big undertaking, and you tend to find the only municipalities doing that are large urban municipalities. And even then, I think if they could go back, they might even want to rethink that model. Maybe the RCMP is a good contract. So there are those fiscal realities about taking control of your own destiny, brings along some associated costs. So I think you should just know that going in there. But the flip side is you are able to mold your community in terms of the way you see it, whatever the community wants. I mean, John's community has definitely always wanted to be rural, very committed to being rural. I suspect 20 years from now, we'll still be fairly rural. Judas community here has decided, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think Colwood's tried to define itself over the last 20–25 years since incorporation. And I think they've chosen the path probably to urbanize. Right? They've got a massive, large development at Capitol Corners, Colwood Corners, yes. And 28-story high-rise, definitely an urban setting for the Western communities where growth is occurring in the greater Victoria area. Saanich has an urban containment boundary. They don't want to grow too much more, except in designated areas. You know, North Saanich is definitely a kind of a no-growth area as well. So where is the growth going to go? Colwood said, pick us. Colwood is now saying, we're ready for you. And they're trying to build the infrastructure to do a good development. So two different, totally different approaches. If you're a Greater Victoria resident, you've got choices about what kind of style of living you want to go. You can live in a beautiful countryside in Minnesota. You can have an urban setting 15 minutes down the road. So nice to have those choices. So that would be one of the big issues, I think, facing this community is can you find that blend? Is it going to be more of an urban center? Is it going to be a blend with some of the challenges of that interface between rural and the urban divide that John talked about? Because it is challenging. First-time councillor, I'm not used to talking an awful lot. Administrators, we give our advice to these folks, right? And we shut up. We hope we've given them good advice, and that it's really clear. And but I kind of like your style. Less reports if I work for you, man. Yeah, no reports. Why? I may not be thinking about that in my next job. See if Joe's retired by then. Maybe I'll come knocking on John's door. But so I think some of the things that this community, when I look at this community, is sort of what community you want to become. Do you want to be in control of your own destiny? And I find most communities who ask that question end up saying yes, even though there is a cost. I think that some of the more local on the island communities that have incorporated in the last 10, 15 years, now would be probably Lansville, Soup come to mind. And I think if you ask the residents of those communities if they would go back to where it was before, I would say you're resounding, no, we like it the way we have it now. They don't want to go back, and I'm sure most of them would say costs have probably gone up, and but they have more control over their destiny. They have an idea about what they want their community to evolve, and I'm sure there's been lots of challenges. And often those are, as John just said, it's about land use and sort of what kind of services we want to provide to the public. What can you afford? I mean, we were struggling these days in Ladysmith. I don't know, it probably doesn't make the news down this way, but we were desperate for transit service. We felt we were kind of in no man's land. A lot of our residents wanted to go to Nanaimo. That was kind of where, they get hospital services, and, commercial services. And some people would be attracted towards Duncan, a little smaller urban center. But no one could leave, right? I mean, you had to have your own automobile or someone would get you there. So there's no truck transit. So council tried to convince transit to come to town, but there was a freeze from a provincial standpoint. So after desperately trying for about 10 years, I would expect, they said, excuse me, to hell with it. And we're going to provide our own. We thought, wow, Langford does a good job. We'll do the trolley model. And so we bought a couple of trolleys and we tried to run our own modified transit system. I don't think we did a particularly good job, and I think most of my fellow councillors would agree in terms of the end result. But it was an interim measure, and it was an attempt to bridge a gap that we weren't getting any help from the province, so we said, we're going to do it ourselves. So we actually are getting real transit with BC Transit. We signed an agreement with the CBRD earlier this year, so we will have true transit come in the fall. It's coming, so we'll move away from the trolley model to true, lowering buses and all the kind of bells and whistles. But it was a choice we made, and there was a significant cost attached to it. And I think that at the end of the day, you have that ability to make those choices, whether you want to bring in a recreation center, whether you want to be urban, whether you want to provide transit services. You certainly have way more control over your land use issues, about what kind of level of enforcement you want to provide on us. All those things. And then, so I think when you look at the gamut of what kind of services are we not getting now, and what could we provide if we incorporated, I think you could probably identify some. And then the issue is your delivery model. Are you going to go contracting out model, or are you going to do everything in-house, or something in between? And that's something that, your new council, in consultation with the citizens, the taxpayers of the community, would engage in that dialogue. And sometimes you'll get it right, as John said. You learn, you go. Sometimes you got to make some changes. And I don't think there's any councils out there, none that I've ever worked for, that get it right all the time, even if they get sterling advice from their administrators. But you know, you gauge it wrong, the timing doesn't work out, there could be a whole host of things. But the nice thing is, you're not wedded to it forever, and you can say, hey, this year we're changing direction. If you know, you do some consultation, you go, hey, maybe it's time we're going to up the service, get out of the service, contract the service, bring that service in-house, right? So those are the choices you make. But it is, at the end of the day, you guys get to make the choices when you're an incorporated municipality, whereas those choices are more difficult to complete, I think, or to really own when it's unincorporated. So that's my general gist. I think that you've heard us a lot, and I'd be interested. I'm quite happy to keep on talking, but I hopefully the three of us up here, you know, I've got an administrative background primarily, and you know, John's got lots of political experience. You know, David's got lots of experience in terms of looking at the 2 incorporation studies that you guys took a stab at, and you know, and maybe what are hot topics in the community aside from the SOIL, you know, issue. So I should have said, don't mention that, right? So, no. But hopefully between the 3 of us, we can handle any topic that comes your way, or answer any questions with our experience, hopefully, that we bring to bear tonight. So thank you.